Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Books and Bytes.
Yes.
Today we're taking a deep dive into the general theory of employment, interest, and money
Right.
by John Maynard Keynes. Now this book, published back in 1936,
Yeah.
is a bit of a behemoth,
It's a big one.
but it's considered one of the most
Yeah.
important economic works of the 20th century.
For sure.
For a reason.
It really is a cornerstone of macroeconomics. Keynes fundamentally challenged
Yeah.
the classical economic thinking that prevailed at the time,
Right.
particularly the idea that economies naturally self-correct
Right.
and tend toward full employment.
So what we have in front of us is not just a dense economic treatise,
Yeah.
but a revolutionary document that aimed to redefine how we understand and manage economies,
Okay.
especially during times of crisis.
Exact. And to do that, Keynes tackles some pretty big themes.
Yeah.
The nature of employment, the role of money and interest rates, and crucially, the role of government in managing economic cycles.
Okay, so before we get lost in the intricacies of Keynesian economics,
Right?
let's set the stage.
Yeah.
What were some of the key problems Keynes was trying to solve with the general theory?
Well, imagine the world in
Yeah.
the 1930s.
Okay.
The Great Depression had gripped the globe and millions were unemployed.
Wow.
Classical economics,
Yeah.
with its faith in the self-regulating market,
Yeah.
seemed to offer no solutions.
Yeah.
Keynes saw this as a massive failure of economic theory to grapple with real-world problems.
So Keynes basically said, hold on, the old playbook isn't working. We need a new understanding of how economies function, especially when things go wrong.
Precisely. And that's what the general theory sets out to do. It's an attempt to create a more realistic and dynamic model of the economy.
Right.
One that acknowledges the role of uncertainty, psychological factors, and importantly, the potential for government intervention to stabilize markets and promote full employment.
That's a pretty ambitious undertaking for one book.
It is.
Where does he even begin?
Well, right off the bat,
Okay.
in Book I, Keynes dismantles some of the core assumptions of classical economics.
Got it.
Remember Say's law, the idea that supply creates its own demand?
Yes.
Keynes argues that's simply not true, especially during economic downturns.
So you can produce all the widgets you want,
Yeah.
but if people don't have the money to buy them,
Right.
those widgets just sit on the shelves and you end up with unemployment.
Exactly. And that's where Keynes introduces his concept of effective demand,
Okay.
which becomes a central pillar of his theory. Effective demand,
Yeah.
unlike simple supply and demand,
Right.
takes into account the willingness and ability of people to buy goods and services at a given price level. In other words, it's not just about production capacity.
Got it.
It's about purchasing power.
This concept of effective demand feels incredibly relevant even today, especially when we think about issues like income inequality and how it impacts overall spending in an economy.
Absolutely. It's one of the reasons Keynes' work continues to resonate.
Yeah.
He wasn't just concerned with abstract economic models. He was deeply interested in how economic forces play out in the real world, impacting people's lives.
So Keynes debunks Say's law and introduces effective demand.
Yes.
What's next in his line of attack on classical economics?
He goes on to challenge the classical view of the relationship between savings and investment.
Okay.
Classical economists believed that savings automatically lead to investment, right?
I mean, it seems logical that if people are saving money, those savings will eventually find their way into investments like new businesses or infrastructure projects.
But Keynes argues that's a flawed assumption.
Why is that?
Keynes points out that investment decisions are driven by factors like business confidence and expectations about future profits. So even if there's a lot of money sitting in savings accounts, businesses might not invest if they're pessimistic about the future.
So you could have a situation where people are saving, but businesses are hesitant to invest.
Exactly.
And the economy stagnates as a result.
Exactly. And this is where Keynes introduces another key concept, the liquidity trap. Imagine interest rates are already very low, but businesses and individuals are still hoarding cash instead of investing.
Right.
They're so uncertain about the future that they prefer to hold on to their money, even if it earns very little return.
That makes sense. If you're worried about losing your shirt in the stock market.
Right.
Or if you think the economy is about to tank.
Yeah.
you're going to hold on to your cash no matter how low interest rates go.
Right. And in this scenario,
Okay.
traditional monetary policy, like lowering interest rates, becomes ineffective in stimulating investments, like pushing on a string. You can try to incentivize people to spend and invest, but if they're gripped by fear and uncertainty, it won't work.
Okay, so Keynes has laid out some pretty serious flaws in classical economic thinking.
Yeah.
He's challenged Say's law, the relationship between savings and investment, and the effectiveness of monetary policy in certain situations.
Yeah.
Where does he go from here? What are his proposed solutions?
Well, this is where things get really interesting, and where Keynes's ideas become truly revolutionary. He argues that in situations like the Great Depression, when the private sector is unwilling or unable to spend, the government needs to step in to stimulate effective demand.
Wait, so Keynes is advocating for government intervention in the economy.
Yes.
That's a pretty radical departure from the laissez-faire approach of classical economics.
It was radical at the time, but Keynes believed it was essential to prevent prolonged economic downturns and mass unemployment. He argued that the government could directly increase effective demand through fiscal policy. That is, by increasing government spending and overcutting taxes.
So instead of waiting for the market to magically fix itself, Keynes is saying the government should take an active role in boosting demand and getting the economy moving again.
Exactly. And he had specific ideas about how to do this. One of his key proposals was for the government to invest in public works projects, like building roads, bridges, and schools.
This sounds a lot like the New Deal programs implemented in the United States during the Great Depression. Was Keynes's work a direct influence on those policies?
There's definitely a connection. While Keynes wasn't the sole architect of the New Deal, his ideas were circulating widely at the time, and they certainly influenced policymakers who were grappling with the crisis. The New Deal's focus on public works projects, job creation, and social safety nets aligns very much with Keynesian principles.
So Keynes argued that government spending could create jobs, put money in people's pockets, and boost demand throughout the economy.
Exactly.
But how does this actually work in practice?
So
how does government spending actually stimulate the economy?
Keynes believed in what he called the multiplier effect. The idea is that each dollar of government spending can generate more than $1 in economic activity.
Can you give me an example of how this multiplier effect would work?
Sure. Imagine the government decides to build a new bridge. To do this, it hires construction workers, engineers, and other professionals. These workers then use their wages to buy food, clothes, and other goods and services, creating a ripple effect throughout the economy. The businesses that sell these goods and services then hire more workers to meet the increased demand. And those workers spend their wages and so on.
So it's like a chain reaction.
Yes.
Where the initial government spending sets off a series of transactions that boost economic activity across multiple sectors.
That's the idea. Keynes argued that this multiplier effect could be a powerful tool for lifting economies out of recession. And importantly, he believed this government spending should be countercyclical. In other words, increase it during downturns and decrease it during periods of economic expansion.
That makes sense. It's like applying the brakes when the economy is overheating and stepping on the gas when it's stalling. It's about using government spending to smooth out the bumps in the economic road.
Exactly. And this approach to managing the economy through government spending and taxation became a cornerstone of what we now call Keynesian economics.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. Keynes challenged some of the fundamental assumptions of classical economics. Introduced new concepts like effective demand and the liquidity trap, and argued for a more active role for government in managing the economy. But we're just scratching the surface of the general theory. What else is in store for us as we delve deeper into Keynes' work?
Well, in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore Keynes' insights into the cyclical nature of economies. His views on the role of money and interest rates, and his thoughts on the social and philosophical implications of his economic theories. It's going to be a fascinating journey.
I'm definitely intrigued.
Good.
It's amazing how a book published almost a century ago can still feel so relevant today. It's like Keynes had a crystal ball and could see the economic challenges we'd be facing in the 21st century.
There's a reason Keynes is considered one of the most influential economists of all time.
Yeah.
His work continues to shape our understanding of how economies function and how we can manage them for the benefit of all.
Well, on that note, let's take a short break.
Yeah.
And we'll be back soon to continue our exploration of the general theory.
Sounds good. Picking up where we left off, one of the most insightful aspects of the general theory is how Keynes tackles the cyclical nature of economies,
Right.
what he calls the trade cycle.
It's not enough to just diagnose the problems of a depressed economy.
Right.
You have to understand how these booms and busts happen in the first place.
Exactly. And this is where Keynes really shines.
Okay.
He goes beyond the traditional explanations like fluctuations in the money supply or technological shocks and delves into the psychological factors that drive these cycles.
He's really emphasizing the human element in economics, isn't he?
Yeah.
Not just treating it as some cold mechanistic system.
Absolutely. He even uses this evocative term, animal spirits, to describe the instincts, emotions, and even irrational impulses that influence investment decisions and drive economic fluctuations.
Okay, so let's unpack these animal spirits a bit.
Sure.
What exactly did Keynes mean by this?
Think about it this way.
Okay.
When businesses are feeling confident, optimistic about the future, they're more likely to invest, expand, take risks.
Okay.
This collective optimism can become self-fulfilling, leading to a boom period.
Right. Okay.
But when doubts creep in, when uncertainty prevails, those animal spirits retreat.
Okay.
Investment dries up.
Right.
And the economy can spiral downward.
So it's not just about rational calculations of profit and loss.
Right.
It's about the mood, the overall sentiment in the business world.
Exactly.
Fear and uncertainty can be as contagious as exuberance.
Precisely. And this is where Keynes' focus on the short run becomes crucial.
Okay.
He famously said, in the long run, we are all dead.
Right.
This quote wasn't meant to be morbid.
Yeah.
It was a sharp critique of the classical view that economies would eventually self-correct.
So rather than waiting for the invisible hand of the market to work its magic, Keynes is saying we need to address economic problems head on.
Yeah.
In the here and now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He believed that prolonged periods of unemployment weren't just statistically bad.
Right.
They were socially and politically destabilizing.
Okay.
And this urgency, this focus on the short run, led him to advocate for active government intervention.
Now, we've talked about government spending and its multiplier effect.
All right.
But Keynes also had some interesting things to say about the role of money in the economy, didn't he?
He did. He went beyond the classical view of money as simply a medium of exchange, arguing that it also serves as a store of value, especially during times of uncertainty.
So it's not just about having cash on hand to buy groceries or pay the rent.
Yeah.
It's also about having a financial cushion, a sense of security in an unpredictable world.
Right. And this desire to hold on to cash.
Okay.
What Keynes called liquidity preference can have a significant impact on interest rates and investment.
This makes me think about the current economic climate.
Yeah.
Where we've seen inflation and rising interest rates.
Yeah.
Is there a connection to Keynes' ideas here?
It's complex, but Keynes' insights are definitely relevant.
Okay.
He argued that manipulating interest rates, the traditional tool of monetary policy, can be ineffective in certain situations, especially when people are hoarding cash due to fear or uncertainty.
So even if the central bank lowers interest rates to encourage borrowing and spending, people might still cling to their cash if they're feeling really nervous about the future.
Exactly. This reinforces his argument for the importance of fiscal policy, government spending, and taxation as a more direct and effective way to stimulate demand during economic downturns.
Okay, so we've explored Keynes's critique of classical economics, his concept of effective demand, his focus on the trade cycle, and the importance of animal spirits, and his nuanced understanding of the role of money.
Yes.
But there's another dimension to the general theory that I find fascinating.
Oh, absolutely. Keynes wasn't just an economist.
Right.
He was also a philosopher, a historian, and a deep thinker about the human condition.
Yeah.
And that comes through in his writing.
Right. He wasn't just trying to fix a broken economic system.
Yeah.
He was trying to understand the underlying social and ethical implications of economic choices.
Yes. In the final chapter of the general theory, Keynes really expands his scope, reflecting on the broader societal implications of his ideas. He grapples with issues like income inequality, the role of the state in promoting social welfare, and even the future of capitalism itself.
So he saw a link between economic policies and broader societal well-being.
Absolutely. For instance, he argued that full employment shouldn't just be an economic goal. It should be a moral imperative. He believed that prolonged unemployment not only caused economic hardship, but also eroded individual dignity and social cohesion.
That's a powerful point.
It is.
It reframes the whole debate about unemployment from simply a matter of statistics to a matter of human well-being.
Exactly. And this concern for social justice runs throughout his work.
Yeah.
He wasn't afraid to advocate for policies that might be considered radical, like progressive taxation and a more equitable distribution of wealth.
Keynes challenged the notion that the pursuit of individual self-interest would automatically lead to a prosperous society. He believed that government had a role to play in ensuring that the benefits of economic growth were shared more widely.
And he wasn't just talking about handouts. He believed in investing in education, healthcare, and social safety nets as a way to create a more just and equitable society. He saw these investments as essential for both economic and social progress.
It's incredible how many of the issues Keynes was grappling with back in the 1930s are still at the forefront of political and economic debates today.
It is.
Income inequality, the role of government, the balance between individual liberty and collective well-being. It's like he was writing for our time.
It's a testament to the enduring power of his ideas and his ability to connect economics to the broader human experience. He wasn't just an economist. He was a visionary who helped shape the course of the 20th century and whose ideas continue to resonate in the 21st.
There's a passage in the general theory that really captures the essence of Keynes' message.
Oh, really?
He writes, the ideas of economists and political philosophers, both when they are right and when they are wrong, are more powerful than is commonly understood. Indeed, the world is ruled by little else.
What a powerful statement. It highlights the responsibility that comes with understanding and wielding economic ideas. Keynes understood that these theories aren't just abstract concepts. They have real-world consequences, shaping policies, impacting lives. He was urging us to engage with these ideas critically, to think deeply about their ethical implications and their potential to shape the world we want to live in.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into the general theory.
We have.
We've explored Keynes's critique of classical economics. His groundbreaking concepts like effective demand and the liquidity trap. His insights into the psychology of markets and his vision for a more just and equitable economic system. But what does this all mean for us? For the everyday listener who might not be an economist? What's the takeaway, the enduring legacy of Keynes' work?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? I think one of the key takeaways is that economics is not just about numbers and graphs. It's about people.
Choices and consequences. Keynes reminds us that economic policies have profound social and ethical implications. And that we can't simply leave these matters to the so-called invisible hand of the market. We have a responsibility to shape our economic destinies, to create systems that serve the common good.
It's a call to action, isn't it? A challenge to think critically about the economic forces that shape our lives. And to demand policies that promote both prosperity and justice.
Absolutely. The general theory is a dense and complex work. But at its heart, it's a plea for a more humane and enlightened approach to economics, one that recognizes the interconnectedness of our fates and the power of collective action to shape a better future.
And I think that's a message that resonates even more strongly today. In a world grappling with economic inequality, climate change, and the challenges of globalization, Keynes's work reminds us that we have choices. That we can shape our economic future.
But it requires knowledge. Engagement. And a willingness to challenge the status quo.
And for those who are ready to take that challenge, to delve deeper into the world of economics and its potential to transform society, I highly recommend exploring the general theory firsthand. It's a demanding read.
It is.
But the rewards are immense.
I completely agree. It's a book that can change the way you think about the world and your place in it.
Yeah.
And with that,
okay,
I want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the mind of John Maynard Keynes.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been an incredible journey.
It has.
And I hope it's inspired you to keep learning,
yes,
questioning, and engaging with the ideas that shape our world.
Absolutely. You know, as we've been discussing Keynes's ideas, I keep thinking about how radical they were for their time.
Yeah.
He was challenging the very foundations of economic orthodoxy.
It's true. He was swimming against the tide.
Yeah.
Taking on some of the most revered figures in economics.
Yeah. Imagine the audacity to question the ideas of Adam Smith, the father of modern economics.
Wow.
Or David Ricardo,
yeah,
whose theories on trade and comparative advantage were considered sacrosanct.
Right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just about intellectual showmanship.
No.
Keynes genuinely believed that these classical theories were inadequate for understanding the economic turmoil of the Great Depression and beyond.
He saw the world around him, the mass unemployment, the economic stagnation, and knew that something had to change. He wasn't content to tinker around the edges. He wanted to provide a whole new framework for understanding and managing economy.
And that's what makes the general theory such a revolutionary work.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a critique of the old. It was a bold attempt to create something new, a more realistic and humane approach to economics that could address the challenges of the modern world.
And one of the key pillars of this new approach was the idea that governments have a responsibility to play an active role in stabilizing the economy.
Right. It's a stark contrast to the classical view that the government should stay out of the market and let the invisible hand do its work. Keynes argued that during times of economic downturn, when the private sector is pulling back on spending, the government needs to step in and fill the gap.
Exactly. He advocated for what we now call counter-cyclical fiscal policy.
Right.
In other words, increasing government spending and/or cutting taxes during recessions to boost demand and create jobs.
This could involve investing in infrastructure projects, providing unemployment benefits, or even just putting more money directly into people's pockets through tax cuts or stimulus checks.
The point is to get money flowing through the economy to jumpstart demand and create a ripple effect that benefits businesses and workers alike.
And while this approach has its critics, those who argue that it leads to excessive government intervention and can stifle economic growth in the long run, it's hard to deny the impact that Keynesian ideas have had on shaping economic policies around the world.
Think about the response to the 2008 financial crisis. Governments around the world implemented stimulus packages, bailed out banks, and took other measures to prevent a complete economic collapse. These actions were very much in line with Keynesian thinking.
It's fascinating to see how these ideas born out of the Great Depression continue to be debated and applied in the 21st century.
It speaks to the enduring power of Keynes's insights and his ability to connect economic theory to the real-world challenges facing societies.
You know, as we wrap up our deep dive into the general theory, I'm struck by the fact that Keynes wasn't just an economist. He was a humanist.
That's so true. He understood that economics wasn't just about numbers and graphs. It was about people, their livelihoods, their hopes and dreams.
He believed that a well-functioning economy should serve the needs of all its citizens, not just a privileged few. He championed policies that promoted full employment, social welfare, and a more equitable distribution of wealth.
And this vision of a more just and humane economic system is perhaps his most enduring legacy. He challenged us to think beyond narrow self-interest and to strive for an economy that works for everyone.
And in a world grappling with rising inequality, climate change, and other pressing challenges, that message feels more urgent and relevant than ever.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Keynes's theories raise an important question. Knowing what we know now about Keynesian economics and its applications, how do you think his theories might be adapted to address the economic challenges of the 21st century?
That's a question worth pondering as we continue to navigate the complexities of the modern global economy.
For those who are interested in exploring this question further, I highly recommend delving into the general theory firsthand. It's a challenging read, But it's an intellectual journey that can change the way you see the world.
And on that note,
okay,
we'll bring this deep dive to a close. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of the ideas of John Maynard Keynes.
My pleasure.
We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking.
Yes.
Until next time, keep those brain cells firing.